personal record by having his longest ever question and answer session with Russian citizens. Vladimir Putin spent over 4 hours covering everything from the state of the economy to the plight of the average Russian, and personal questions, some which stirred up interest.
It was a day of questions, including a strange element of the bizarre.
Would
you like to live forever? If you want to live for eternity as a citizen of planet Earth, give me a call.
I'm proud of being a citizen of the Russian Federation. It's more than enough.
Just one sample of Prime Minister Vladimir Putin's nationwide conversation, answering questions on everything from football and Russia's chances of hosting a World Cup to serious issues on the economy and the crisis.
It will take time and effort to overcome the crisis. Still, positive trends are observed on the whole. The past year has been among the most difficult in the past decade, not only for us but also for the whole world economy. We have been hit hard by the crisis.
Given the attention to the economy, the Prime Minister was asked about Mikhail Khodorkovsky and whether the former oil tycoon will be released.
The person you mentioned has been put in prison by a court. The problem is not when he'll be released. The problem is that such crimes must never happen again in Russia. The money that was made from selling Yukos assets has been put into the state budget. It's being used to improve housing and living conditions for the people. It was stolen from the people. We must give it back to them.
And in the wake of the recent deadly attack on the Nevsky Express, some of the questions focused on the state of Russia's anti-terror measures.
We have always done much to break the back of terrorism, but the threat has not been removed. We can be efficient. What is necessary to achieve this? I emphasize that each and every one of us must realize this threat that accompanies us all these years. We should be vigilant and pursue avenues of prevention.
And through the broadcast, Prime Minister Putin even showed off his funny side, taking some less serious questions as well.
All great people suffer from depression. How do you cope with depression?
I don't consider myself in a category of great people, and that's why I don't have problems with depression.
The Prime Minister has also indicated a desire to connect with the Russian psyche as well, addressing head-on the recent criticism about revisionist views on Stalinism.
All the positive things that Stalin accomplished were gained at an unfair price. And this way of ruling a country is unacceptable. In that period, we encountered the cult of Stalin's personality and crimes against his own people. It's a fact, and we must not forget that.
This is the 8th time Putin has had such a question and answer session, and clocking in at 4 hours, it has been the longest, indicating that more questions are being asked, hoping for answers and action from the Prime Minister. Sean Thomas, RT.
Well, one questioner got a rather swift response. The nephew of a Second World War veteran complained of her poor living conditions and that authorities in the city of Azov had repeatedly failed to find his aunt a home. Within 40 minutes of Putin's promise to help, the 84-year-old pensioner got her new residence. The region's governor soon got things moving after the local government held an extraordinary meeting while Putin was still answering questions on television. You're watching RT. Coming up later in the program, talking cybersecurity. As the National Security Agency helped develop new Windows software, is it for security reasons or just to intercept users? Are the NSA and Microsoft working in tandem? Also, our close-up series, Nizhny Novgorod is not only the tourist keystone for its unique medieval architecture, but also a cradle of Russian tradition. Find out what's so special about the city's spirit, which makes its folk art so fascinating. With 30,000 U.S. troops to be deployed to Afghanistan, Americans are now more than ever scrutinizing President Obama's campaign promises. And as NATO leaders meet in Brussels to discuss just how much manpower the region requires, the alliance says even more troops may be needed.
Just moments after President Obama's announcement to send 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan, Americans hit the streets in protest.
No war in Afghanistan!
Bring the troops home.
We believe that you cannot bring peace and democracy to other people with weapons.
I think that he campaigned on a promise of hope and peace. And I think what he's showing now is that he's given in to all the war hawks around him. And this is Obama's war now.
And across town, the people they elected started turning up the heat on the Obama administration.
Do we have a new war? Or do we have an old war under new ownership?
My fear, as is the fear of so many others, is that we could easily get bogged down in an endless war.
There were many skeptics in the crowd wondering how things can really change in Afghanistan after 8 years of war. But President Obama's sidekicks did their best to back him up.
Where is Osama bin Laden, and why can't we seem to get him? How much can we count on our intelligence now when we can't even capture one guy in 8 years?
I share your frustration that 8 years from the attack that devastated New York has not led to the killing or capturing of bin Laden and his principal lieutenants.
And some of President Obama's old rivals weren't going to let his captivating speech smooth over the reality that there's a chance his new strategy might not work.
Will we withdraw our forces based on conditions on the ground or based on an arbitrary date, regardless of conditions on the ground?
One of the biggest doubts these congressmen had is how realistic it is to have a complete troop withdrawal by 2011. They wondered if it's possible for 30,000 more troops to rebuild a country in 18 months. It's a question that didn't seem to have one answer.
It's very clear, this president has said it, the military leadership understands that this is not open-ended and we are not going to escalate.
But what the president has announced is the beginning of a process, not the end of a process.
Doing their best to sell a plan that many Americans just don't buy.
It's the wrong decision!
Priya Sridhar, RT, Washington, D.C.
Rolling Stones guitarist Ronnie Wood has been arrested and released on bail on suspicion of assaulting his Russian girlfriend. Police were called out to the rock star's home near London after reports of domestic disturbance. Laura Emmett is following the story.
Ronnie Wood, the Rolling Stones superstar, was arrested for an incident, a domestic incident on Claygate High Street. Now, Claygate is quite a small village, about 26 kilometres south of London, and it's a very rich area, if you like. It's part of the commuter belt, so a lot of the people who live and work there are people who have made a lot of money in London. They commute in and out every day, so it's a very prosperous area, and I'm sure an area that's not used to this kind of superstar sort of violence and drama. It's a tabloid newspaper snowstorm. It's the kind of story that tabloid newspapers love. All the components are there. We're talking about an ex-Rolling Stone, a very, very rich man, a superstar, and he's been a star, a world-renowned star for really quite a long time. And then, of course, there's the fact that he is a 62-year-old man, and he is dating this much younger woman. Yekaterina Ivanova is a Russian Kazakh, and she's only 20 years old. So there you have all the ingredients for lots of sensational pictures. Yekaterina Ivanova also isn't a shy girl. She's a bit of an exhibitionist. So pictures have appeared in the past of her in the newspapers with not very many clothes on. They have these very public rows, and this is not the first time that the police have been involved in an incident which has had them in it. In September, the police were called round to their £5 million house, so $7 million house in London, and she reportedly had threatened to kill herself during a row that they had then. So this is sort of an ongoing saga.
In a sign of improved ties between the Orthodox and Catholic churches, Russia and the Vatican have agreed to establish full diplomatic relations. It follows a visit by Dmitry Medvedev to Rome, where Italy also welcomed Moscow's suggestion of a new European security treaty and agreed to promote Russia's South Stream pipeline.
Silvio Berlusconi tried hard to create a refined ambience for the high-level meeting. And even if the Giudo Renni's fresco Aurore was fake, Dmitry Medvedev appreciated the effort.
When I was invited for the news conference in his tent, I thought it would be similar to the one belonging to our Libyan friend, Colonel Gaddafi. But when I looked inside, I realized that this tent is a piece of art in itself.
The Russian president seems to have taken a lead from Vladimir Putin to treat Berlusconi as a friend, and the result is 18 signed agreements in one visit. One of the major deals is between Russia's Gazprom and Italy's Eni on construction of a gas pipeline through the Black Sea. The ambitious South Stream project will transport natural gas from Russia directly to Europe with no transit countries involved. Silvio Berlusconi wasn't shy about naming the undesirable middleman.
Our goal is to avoid the pipeline going through the territorial waters of Ukraine. We managed to persuade Turkey to agree that the pipeline bypasses its waters. And we're not talking about any competition between South Stream and the Nabucco pipeline. We're talking about uninterrupted export of gas from Russia.
Alongside energy security, European security in general came up in the Rome talks. Dmitry Medvedev had recently sent a draft of the new treaty to foreign counterparts. One of the key points is that countries should not allow their territory to be used as the launch pad for an attack on their partners, and that an attack on one is an attack on all. Moscow has been promoting the new treaty ever since the Georgian military invasion in South Ossetia last year.
When I first came up with